really matter. What really matters is that you invest in the stock market. So he talks about this monkey experiment with picking stocks, and he goes into great detail. And most of you all have probably heard him talk about that monkeys, 50% of the time or more, they do just as good of a job than so-called experts with picking the stock. And it's important just to get into the game. Well, I think the same thing is also applied when it comes to how you need love. So there was another monkey experiment. So the experiment was that they put a baby monkey in a room, and on one side of the room, there will be a nice warm surrogate mother. So it will be like a warm blanket, something really snuggly and lovable on one side of the room. And then on the other side of the room, they'll have food, water on one side of the room. And so they'll put the monkey in the room and they'll watch to see what side of the room, where is the little baby monkey gonna go? And over again, what the experimenters found was that, what do you all think? The experimenters, do you think they want the water and food, or do you think they really want to be cuddled? Let's see what some people think. I don't know if I can see the chat. I don't know who all. Raise your hand in the chat if you think that they went to the food first, or you think they wanted to be cuddled first. Put your answers in the chat. I can't see it because my screen is shared. But for those of you all who picked that the monkeys would rather go to a nice, warm, cuddly place over and over again, they would look at the food, but they would actually spend their time with a nice, warm, cuddly place. So what does this tell us? This tells us that our primal need for love is much greater than our need for food. So people walk around, they are hungry for love above and beyond your hunger for food. And that's the monkey experiment that I wanted to talk about, to demonstrate to you that if you're honest with yourself, you'll realize that you do need love. Now, the reason why a lot of people say, I don't need love, I don't need to get married, I can be by myself and I don't need anybody. The reason why my hunch is the reason why people say that is because there's fear, there's lots of anxiety, and there's lots of sadness that's coupled with trying to find somebody that's going to meet your needs. And I think that it is extremely courageous for you to admit in your relationships that you are, you have to make yourself vulnerable. And we talked about trauma and all of these topics this morning. You have to make yourself vulnerable enough so that you can lower your guard so that you can love somebody completely. And, I see this in my practice a lot. Clients sometimes don't even realize that this is, what they need. And so I've talked to husbands, and a lot of husbands, their happiness is tied to how they make their wife feel. If they're able to satisfy their wife, they feel good. So they need love. I've talked to a lot of women who binge eat, and they'll fill themselves with food as a substitute for what? For love. They need love too. And sometimes they're not getting the type of love that they want in their home. I even talk to a lot of teenagers, by the way, and these are people who are just coming into the dating scene. And so they're love-struck teenagers that I talk to, and we spend a lot of time like, okay, what are your criteria? What is it that you want? They come and they see me because they're looking for love, right? So it's all about love. And I think there's no other group that needs love more than us in the Black community. I think that we internalize so much hate that's been poured into us, especially on social media. Dr. Boyce knows I feel very uncomfortable when I see all this hate going back in social media, back and forth, because I think that it just doesn't do anything to bring us together. All it does is separates us, and it increases this fear and this anxiety and sadness. And he knows very well, he's heard me talk about it, that sort of thing makes me really uncomfortable. And really it's that sort of thing that I've seen that has like motivated me to be here and talk to you about what it takes for love. Yeah, and we talked about the fear. I think that you can't allow fear to stop you from getting the love that you know that you need. So we've already established that you need it, and a lot of people are fearful, and this really is going to take a risk. I think that our panelist this morning did an excellent job talking about healing from trauma and how that has a relationship on how that is connected to your current relationships. And trauma, what is trauma? Sometimes trauma is things that happen to you that never should have happened to you. You never should have been violated in that way. But trauma is also things that should have happened to you that never happened to you. And when I talk to some of my clients, I'll ask them, I'll say, okay, so when you were a child and you had a bad day and you needed emotional support, who was there for you to talk to? And I find that if some people say, I really didn't have anybody to talk to, or I didn't have anybody in the house to talk to help guide me, and so I ended up talking to my friend, or I ended up talking to a sibling, that signals to me that that's trauma too. It's somebody, an adult or someone should have been there for you to connect with you, to help you process your feelings, and not having someone to process your feelings with, that is trauma. And what happens is that when I hear couples, I work with a lot of couples. When I hear one person say, "Oh, I found that my partner is emotionally unavailable," in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I wonder what type of trauma. And I know that Dr. Henry this morning talked about how a lot of people aren't aware that they even had a traumatic experience. That was a really good point, because what happens if you're not able as a child to be demonstrated how to connect with yourself when you have a difficult time at school or a difficult time with someone, if you don't have someone there to help you process that trauma, you start to cut yourself off, because that's the coping mechanism. When you don't have anyone who's there for you in that way, that's how you cope. And so not having someone to reflect back to you and to validate your feelings, sometimes when you get older, and you enter into a relationship, you haven't connected with yourself. And so you're unable to have empathy for your partner because you don't have empathy for your own feelings. So you're put in these situations with your significant other, and you don't know how to react to the sensitive situations because that was not modeled for you when you were growing up. So that's how trauma really can make it difficult for you to connect with a loved one. And you'll start hearing people say, well, I want to know who you are emotionally. And you have to, and what trauma does, and Dr. Henry spoke about this as well, is that trauma makes it so that you don't feel like you can trust your partner, because you don't know to trust, you don't know who to trust, because you didn't have anyone that you could trust when you were growing up. So that sort of thing wasn't modeled for you. And so you don't even trust yourself to make the right decision in picking a partner. So that is why you need to connect with yourself in order to connect with a potential partner. And some of that is related to dealing with some trauma. So you're going to take a risk. Okay. So you're not going to allow fear to get in the way with getting the love that you need. You may have some fear to that, but fear associated with that, but you're going to take a risk. You're going to dive in. So how do you dive into a relationship? One thing that I think that I work with a lot of my teenagers who are entering into the dating scene, I work with this. I start talking to them about, okay, tell me your core feelings, beliefs, or values. What are they? What are some things that are important to you? And this morning, it was Trey Kearney who talked about this morning. I have non-negotiables. Like Trey Kearney is very clear about what her non-negotiables are. Well, I started introducing this to a lot of the teenagers who are coming into the dating scene. I say, okay, what are your non-negotiable? What are things that are important to you? Your feelings, beliefs, and values that are very important to you that you can't be flexible on. And then we'll come up with another list on what are some things that's a nice to have. And so it's important early on to really start thinking about that so you can be ready to get into the dating scene. And I will talk about, is freedom important? A sense of adventure, travel is important. Is family, family values, is that's what's important as your core belief. Sometimes religion is super important for a lot of people, being spiritual. Honesty is super important. So it's important to really understand exactly who you are and ask yourself these questions when you're picking a mate, and you overcome your fear and you want to dive right on in. Yes. So I absolutely love this show. So I am addicted to this show. It's called Married at First Sight. I have been binge watching. I've seen every single season from season 1. Now we're in season 12. I have watched it ongoing during the pandemic. And I love this show because it really is a perfect illustration of some of the information I want to convey today. So, and for all of you who don't know, Married at First Sight is a show where they talk to experts. Okay. So if you're interested in getting married and you're having a difficult time finding the right person, you can sign up for a show if it comes to your town, and you're interviewed by experts and you fill out a questionnaire online, a test, and they try to get into your personality, and you tell the experts who you are and the type of mate you would love to have. And so the experts listen to you and they pair you up with someone. Sight unseen, you agree to marry them. So hence the title, Married at First Sight. It is a train wreck, and I am like, as a relationship expert, as a couples coach, I am watching every single episode. And it's really interesting because you have these experts on the show putting people together, but they don't explain to them the typical stages of a relationship. So, what I'm saying is that people are going into this Married at First Sight with all of these high expectations, and they're not very realistic about what a relationship really means because you don't know that person very well. And by the way, Married at First Sight, if you look at their divorce rates and their how many people choose to stay together, the divorce rates on Married at First Sight is really much higher than the divorce rates in the regular population. So there's something there that's missing in terms of the experts. So for me, what that tells me is that an expert is not going to teach you. An expert is going to give you somebody that you ask for, but I don't think the experts are really giving them the skills that they need to have a successful relationship. I'm going to do that today. Okay. So you need to be realistic about relationships. Yes, at the beginning of the relationship, that's the promise stage. That's where you're in harmony with your partner and you show your best self. But in the back of your mind, you know that you're a flawed person in some way and that your partner is probably flawed. But you're showing your best self. You focus on, oh, we have so much in common. I think he's the right person for me. I'm going to marry this person. And there's harmony and all that excitement, that intensity of this first stage of relationships. And it's a very intense stage. It's a very erotic stage until you move into a very more of a domesticated phase where it's more natural. And you need to know that you can't stay in the promised stage. You can't stay in that. It's just the beginning of a spiritual journey that the two of you are having together. It's about moving into moments of engagement with your partner where you can be open and accepting of each other. And that is how you attach to each other. So it's not just a focus on similarities, it's focusing on the differences in how you manage and navigate those differences. So it is a spiritual journey, I believe, that brings two people together, whether it lasts or not. There is a lesson that you must learn by being involved with each other, and you're going to have challenges and you have to work through those issues. So the second stage. So the second stage is a disillusionment stage, and smart couples are able to understand that we need to work through this. So if you want, okay, so all of you all who don't watch Married at First Sight, I'd like for you to watch season 11. So not the current season. Right now we're in season 12, but season 11, they're in New Orleans. And pay close attention to a couple, Amelia and Bennett. So all y'all know who Amelia and Bennett, those were those little earthy couple that got together. And pay attention to Woody and Amani. That's an African-American couple. And you talk about Black love, Woody and Amani demonstrate Black love. I personally would love to reach out to them and interview them because I follow their relationship. Pay attention to how they interact with each other on the show. So if you haven't already watched the show, I highly recommend that you watch season 11, and it will demonstrate how they enter the disillusionment stage. And so disillusionment stage is really where you start noticing differences. So you say, I think my partner is not as wonderful as I thought, and you have to be safe with each other because you have this natural flow. It's the infinity symbol where you're curious at the moments where the infinity symbol is broken. You can put that back together by being curious about each other. Okay, I don't quite understand this. I want to get to know you better because you notice some of the differences between you and your partner. And so this wave moves back and forth. And if really smart couples like Amani and Woody and Amelia and Bennett, season 11 of Married at First Sight, they are brilliant at recognizing, there's something going on here. We need to get back on target. We need to get back together. There's an issue, and how they deal with conflict on that show, it is perfection. So anyway, watch season 11. You will actually learn from those two. So I'm kind of giving it a spoiler. They do stay together on that show, but they really they really are a good illustration of how you need to talk with each other and respond to each other when you have differences and you have problems. Like they have problems in their relationship, and they were able to work on, they were saying, something's wrong with our connection. Let's work on getting connected together. And I like to call it like relationship germs, because if you're not able to recognize that there's disharmony and the flow is not there, if you're too afraid to talk about it and you don't want to deal with it directly, I call it relationship germs. It's almost like your relationship gets infested with negativity and lots of anger. And I see so many couples. I mean, there have been couples I've seen where I say, okay, so when did these problems start? And I start thinking, oh my goodness, you guys have been dealing with this for 14, 15 years. Like I've seen couples who struggle in this disharmony, disillusionment stage. They never work out the issues between each other. They sweep it under the rug. And what happens is because the relationship gets infected and they have a lot of anger and resentment toward each other, it's like plaque that builds up and it causes damage, and you don't even realize, what's going on. And it can be very devastating. And you can't keep that anger in you for long. And so you start taking it out on your spouse, and it's extremely toxic. And I think in these moments, I have to work with couples on, okay, how are we going to forgive each other? Okay, you were stubborn. You can't be too stubborn, to forgive anyway. And so this disharmony, disillusionment stage, don't be frightened. You say, oh my God, I took a leap of faith. I met the wonderful man of my life, and now we're having problems. I need to go back to being alone again. That may not be the time to do that. This may be a time for you to grow. It may be a time for you to grow. So understand and appreciate the differences between you and your partner. I like the restoration phase because that is where you start to really learn about your partner. You develop an appreciation of the ways you and your partner are different. And, okay, it's some of these differences that actually attracted you to your partner in the first place. And this can be a source of potential growth. So, I recommend praising each other for the positive, unique gifts that your partner brings into the relationship. And pay attention to the positive. When you pay attention to the positive, you bring out more positive in your partner. And you'll be surprised at how much more often these desired aspects of your partner begin to show up. And what's interesting about this picture here is that you can see that the heart has been broken. And look at the smiles on their faces. And you can see that they have three broken pieces in their hand, of which they've taped together. So it's almost like you need to, when you feel that your relationship has lost its infinity, it's lost its flow, you can actually work on yourself, learn how to forgive yourself and your partner, and then tape yourself back together. And then you can work on, building and restoring and repairing for each other. So some of the repair work it's going to require you to be introspective. It's going to require you to think, okay, I'm going to try to grow here and try to do things in a way that is more helpful for the relationship. So repair is what's needed after being disillusioned in some way. And repair and restoration is really a deep love. It's a knowing love, it's a very mature love, and it's in conjunction with the truth and accuracy. So it's important to be accurate. So when you get to know your partner better, you're seeing them better, and you can have more affection towards your partner genuinely, not like it was in stage one when you were just kind of infatuated and the hope and promise. It's going to require you to let go of stage one. It's going to require you to say, you know what, I put all my hopes and dreams into my partner when we first met, that they're going to be the actual perfect person. Now you're going to really see them for who they are. And so it's a knowing love in our partner's flaws and limitations. Even though they have flaws and limitations, you're choosing not to withdraw from them. Instead, you're choosing to love them anyway, even though they're flawed. So that promise stage is not real. And for many of us, we kind of mourn that. Like, God, I really miss when we first started dating and how passionate we used to be. Now we have to really work at it. And I really miss that beginning stages. But the beginning stages, you didn't really know each other well. So that beginning stages wasn't real. So success is in how you navigate. And you have to I encourage you all, if you're in any of those stages right now, especially disillusionment stage, to stay on course. And I think that you can feel hopelessly overwhelmed by some of the problems you may be experiencing right now in your relationship. But I really want to encourage you to hold on and to forgive each other and not to let it go. If it's really something that you feel that desires and requires your commitment and worth your commitment, don't let go of it. Like, really hold on to your partner and work through. We're all prone to mistakes. We all make mistakes. We all are not perfect. Even successful, very satisfying relationships, they're going to fight. You're going to fight. You're going to have arguments. Boyce and I fight and have arguments, but when we get together and we talk about our feelings, and it's an opportunity for us to get to know each other better, and we end up closer in the end. We end up knowing each other closer. So don't conclude that, oh, I have a bad marriage. Oh my goodness, it's all over again. You can work. And so relationships really have nothing to do with the other person. Knowing this puts you in a very powerful place, because you now have control. You now have control over how you feel and who you're going to be in this relationship. So initially, there's bliss and there's lots of joy, but it's followed by opportunities for you to work on your soul. And I believe that it is only in your marriage or only in your relationship with your significant other that you grow. So if you stay stuck in that box, if you stay afraid and stuck in that box, you're not going to be able to grow. You only grow through the lens of a partner. I think it's important, I like to give Dr. Alicia tips. So I think it's really important to talk today about Dr. Alicia tips and 3 pieces of information and tips that I want to deliver to you today for you to contemplate and think about. The first tip would be you have to be willing to stretch yourself to meet your partner's needs. And this is going to require you to grow. Growth is very painful, but there was some part of you that wanted to grow in this way. There is a part of you that wanted to go through this pain and grow in the way that you're doing now if you're in a relationship, because you were attracted to that person for some reason. So some part of you wanted to grow if you were attracted to someone as different from you as you perceive your partner to be right now. You unconsciously saw traits in your partner that you yourself wanted to develop. And so this is going to require you to stretch yourself to meet your partner's needs. And that means you need to go beyond what is comfortable. You have to be able to get out of your comfort zone, and you have to go beyond what is natural for you. What are you willing to sacrifice for love? I think that you should sacrifice as much as you can for love, because the rewards of stretching are so far greater. And it's a greater appreciation for your partner's differences and the newly discovered similarities that you now have because you've grown with each other. My next tip is try to find creative ways to share each other's worlds. Who would have known in a million years that I would be sitting right here talking to you on social media? Like, hello, I am now into Dr. Boyce's world, like I just a few months ago, I created an Instagram page. I never had Instagram, until I got in a relationship with Boyce. He's able to share this digital world with me. And it's creative and it's fun stuff. We have such a good time. Like, while some of the panels were going, I went down into his office and we were talking about, a 6-week course that we'd like to offer to you all. And we were going over the curriculum. It is a great way for us to share each other's world. I get to talk about my expertise with couples, and he gets to talk about his expertise in finances, and we could come up with a wonderful blend of the two. So we're sharing our worlds together in a way that is so valuable, and I'm better for it, and I would think he thinks that he's better for it. Also, like, when Dr. Boyce and I started dating, all I did all day was go for runs. I would sign up for marathons and half marathons and 5Ks. And I was able to share that world with Dr. Boyce. So who knew that years later, after we started dating, he would actually complete a marathon? That is a creative way for me to share my world and my running community with him. And then in the long run, he's better for it because he lost a lot of weight. We have a lot of fun together. It's a great way for us to connect. And so, this is a perfect example of what you can do in your relationship. If your partner is interested in sports, and you don't know anything about sports, well, maybe this is a time for you to catch up on knowing about sports. This is a chance for you to learn about your spouse. So sharing with each other is another way to kind of reinforce that intimacy if you're willing to move through resistance. So instead of saying, oh, here's Boyce online again, and having resentment for Dr. Boyce for being online, I'm just like, wow, this is an interesting world. I'd like to be involved in it. And here I am being involved. Instead of, Dr. Boyce saying, oh, here she is going on another run. Well, he showed interest in something I was interested in and actually participated. So it's a way to discover new things together. And so we're not so much different. We share our worlds together. And another thing is that, it's very important to be silly with each other. Anxiety and silliness can't exist in the same space, so be silly with each other, have fun with each other, have good conversations. These are the victims of a committed relationship, by the way. So if you're in a relationship, do not let the fun die. Do not let the playfulness die. Do not let the romance die. These must be priorities above and beyond the children, above and beyond anything. You still have to have fun with each other and share each other's world. And so I think that the last tip is to learn the healing power and beauty of unconditional love. I think that when couples can give to one another with no strings attached, something magical really happens. Um, Loving your partner just for who he or she is, not for what they do for you, not for what they give you. This is a very freeing experience. It's very uplifting for the both of you. You know, all of us crave this type of love, and that's a love that I think is unconditional. When you demonstrate your love for your partner in this way, you are letting your partner know that you care about them deeply, and that you and that they are a precious part of your life, and the love between you is way more important and stronger than any of the differences that could ever come between you. So unconditional love is building material of a growing and lasting relationship. And I think that unconditional love is the goal for Black love. And so I think now I saw some people writing things in the chat, and I wanted to know if anyone had any questions for me to talk about, if they have questions about today. Let's see if I can look at some of your questions. So I'm going to open up the questions. Oh gosh, I see a lot of questions. Okay, so let me go down. Okay. Oh, so Tasha in the chat said, are Dr. Alicia and Dr. Boyce willing to create a community where Black singles can meet? You know, that is a really good idea. I'm going to write that down and make sure that we talk about it. I think, and this is really an important question because I ran across an article that talked about having that ethnic identity is really important for like-minded couples. So it helps to create sort of a good union between two people. So when we talk about ethnic identity, when you start to realize that you're in the B1 community, so everyone talks about B1 community. So people who believe that that form of ethnocentrism and understanding that B1 is very important, couples who agree on that tend to be very satisfied with each other, believe it or not. So that is something that I think, because we're so like-minded and that there's a lot of singles who understand about Black empowerment and all the things that Dr. Boyce talks about, I think that it would be nice to have like a forum for all of you all with like-minded who are singles to find somebody, and you can filter through all of that and you can find each other. I think that's a great example. I'm going to look in the chat and see if there's any questions there. Okay. Okay, so Sherry, oh, scroll to the bottom. Okay, so I'm gonna scroll to the bottom and take questions.
And they are in the Q&A as well, Dr. Alicia?
They're in the Q&A, okay. So let me go, I got both of them up.
Yep, if you pop into the Q&A and you'll see at the bottom that they have been raving about your keynote, and they are saying such wonderful things. And I promised them that I would make sure you see the chat after this is over. They have been so motivated by you and all of the other panelists, and I know I have as well.
Okay, so I'm looking for the questions. You've been married for a decade. Okay, so Beverly Henry is writing a question. You've been married, so I guess Beverly, because I haven't been married for decades, but been married for decades and he still refuses to give you what you want in exchange for what he wants. Okay, so it sounds like there's a quid pro quo going on, Beverly. Yeah, I would, you know, I wonder why he feels like there needs to be an exchange back and forth. Because when I talked about unconditional love, it's giving to another person just for the sake of giving it to them, giving them what they want. So I would explore, Beverly, if you're talking about your marriage for decades, I would explore that with him. Like, where does he feel like you're not meeting his needs? So, and if you've been married for a long time, I would probably think that perhaps he wasn't able to talk about some things early on, and there may be some resentment going on there. So I would ask him, hey, honey, what do you need from me? Tell me. And, we talked about that on the Black Love Challenge, is that I recommend that all couples ask your partner every day, what can I do for you today to make you feel loved? And maybe you all can decide to do that. Miss Beverly, say, what can I do today to make you feel loved? And then do it. Whatever it takes, whatever it is, do it. Candace Neal says, what about having a Black love class for single parents loving their Black teenagers well? Okay, so having a Black love class for single parents. Yeah, I think that would be really helpful, a Black love class for single parents with teenagers. So I think it's important when you come into a relationship and you have like other children from other relationships. I think that's important to also have a class on that, on what to do with blended families, because just about all of the families that I work with, in some way, they're blended. They're a blended family. And so navigating that, especially when you have teenagers in the house, it's really interesting to navigate some of that. Let's see, over in the chat, I see, please differentiate between the definition of compatibility versus complementary. Oh, very good one. Okay, so I think, and that's Crystal Conley has that question. That's really interesting. I think that compatibility and complementary, I think that they are related to each other. So compatibility are just things that you have in common, and complementary are things that you're lacking that you need, So I just recently I went on vacation with another family in Atlanta, and we all complemented each other really well. So like, I'm really good at planning and scheduling things, so I was able to schedule things with the children and scheduling activities, where another person, the other couple that I was with, they were really good at barbecuing. And so I'm like, oh, so you're good at barbecuing. Let's get the food and you barbecue. And I'm really good at mixing drinks. And so I'll be the drink mixers. And so we were able to have a really good experience on that trip, because all of our skills that we brought to the experience, we were able to complement each other. Where I'm lacking, you can get in and you can actually fit in pretty well. So I think that is how you complement each other. You appreciate each other, your unique talents that you bring to the relationship or to the moment, and you lean on it. Say, we need you. We need you to do this. So anonymous attendee says, oh, no, I want to do Alex. Alex says, what are the wise ways to start conversations at disillusionment stage? Yeah, I don't think that there's probably an unwise way to start a conversation at disillusionment stage. I kind of feel that you just need to talk about it. And it may be clunky and it may be uncomfortable. And, I think that what you don't want to do is you don't want to criticize your partner. You don't want to blame your partner. You don't want to talk down to your partner. You just want to say, okay, here's what I need. Here's how I feel. And I think I need to just broach it. So what I would do is I would ask for permission. I would say, hey, honey, there's some things that have been on my mind, and I really want to talk about them with you. It's about our relationship. And I know right now you're probably busy, but I would like to know if we can schedule a time for us to meet and for us to talk. so that we can talk about some of the things that have been troubling me, because I want our relationship to work. Please let me know when that time would be. And if you say something like that, what do you think your partner is going to say? They're going to be like, oh my goodness, okay, let's talk about it. They're going to feel, and so that's a good way of like approaching your partner, is just recognizing it. Say, I think there's something going on here. We used to really flow. Our infinity symbol used to really flow, but I feel like it's gotten clogged up. I think we need to start working on this. And so I think that's a great way to, kind of approach it. Let's see. Oh, how do we explain? So, oh my God, I can't even say this name. Sheamorous. How do we explain this symbol to young Black men so that they care and want to learn more? So that's an interesting question. How do we explain this symbol? So young Black men who are entering into the dating scene, I imagine. How do we explain this? Yeah, I think it is important to model it for children and for young Black men. I think, I came from a family that wasn't very preachy, like I didn't like, I would ask my parents for help and assistance, and they never really gave me help. They would always turn it back on me and say, well, what do you think? So they were more interested in what I thought about the problem than what they thought about the problem. So I didn't come up with people explaining things to me, but I learned from my parents by what they did. So the best way to teach young Black men how to behave or how to operate in a relationship is to visually demonstrate that for them. So children do not what you say, but they do what you do. So if you want to teach a young Black person or a young Black male or a young Black female how to operate in relationships, set up opportunities where they get to see you operate in a relationship in a healthy way. And they're paying attention, like especially teenagers and young, they act like they're not paying attention because we got teenagers in the house. They are paying attention to everything. They see everything. And so you have to just live it in your life, and that teaches them. Okay, so how can I grow? Another question. How can I grow my relationship when the man I'm dating, who's divorced, like to talk about his ex-wife and other people he's dated in the past from time to time? Yeah, so you really need to think about how that makes you feel, and how does it make you feel? I would write it all down, and I would explore that with them. Say, it kind of makes me feel a little uncomfortable that, we're in these situations and I hear about your ex a lot. And so it makes me think maybe there's some unresolved stuff there, and how can I help you get through it? So don't say it like, don't accuse, the man that you're in a relationship with and the man that you're dating. Don't accuse him of anything, but just talk to him about how it makes you feel, and let that be the beginning of a conversation. Trust me, this man wants to be with you or he wouldn't be dating you. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned, and especially having a lot of men in my practice. When I talk to men, being in a relationship for men, many men, I'm not going to speak for all men because that would be problematic, but if I could speak to a lot of the men, if a man is in a relationship with you and he's interested in only you, he don't want to be with anybody else, So, be confident in the fact that he's dating you and that he doesn't want anyone else. Maybe he's just trying to work out some things through you related to the ex. And so be a supportive person to him and don't take it personal, although it probably hurt not to take it personal, but try to understand it from his perspective. He may not be intentionally doing that for you. So I would really focus on that. So, okay, so let's see another question. Okay, so how much time do men, okay, Tasha, I got Tasha's question. How much time do men need to process when it comes to the question, what do you want in regards to taking a friendship and relationship further? Oh, so there must be a man who's kind of on the fence. and not quite sure where to go. Um, I think that it is never a bad idea to take things slow. And you can always ask them, okay, what is your intention? Are you dating just to have fun? Or are you dating to possibly look for someone serious? That might be like a question that you want to have up front. And if they say, well, I'm looking to see, so maybe um it takes a lot of time. Sometimes it takes a lot of time for men, especially if men um they need to feel comfortable to settle down and make a commitment. So if they feel somewhat reserved, or if if the atmosphere isn't to the point where they feel comfortable letting their guard down and letting you be just the one that they want to be with, sometimes they kind of clam up and you're not quite sure. So I would have a conversation with him about it. Like, where are we going? Where are we taking this? And acknowledge the fact that, hey, I don't want to take it fast. I want to take it slow. I say slow is good. Slow is better than fast and wrong. Anyway, so, okay, so let's see another question. Um, Widowers, oh goodness. Okay, sharing your discomfort about bringing of late wife becomes complicated. How do you deal with that? Sharing your discomfort about, okay, so there is a loss. So it seems as if there was a widow and he lost his wife, and that becomes complicated and you're dating someone. Sharing your discomfort about bringing of late wife becomes complicated. How do you deal with that? Yeah, I mean, the grieving process of and I imagine that you're probably, if you're dating someone who's a widow, you're probably being compared, and no one wants to say anything negative about someone who's passed on. Like, it just feels uncomfortable, and so you have to understand that. So sometimes if someone in the family passes on, we kind of put them up on a pedestal and we don't want to say anything negative about them. So I can see how that can become really complicated. I know a lady who one of my mom's friends who married a man whose wife had died. His previous wife died, and she moved into the home, and there was pictures of this wife all over the house. And so it was really difficult. Like, how do you start saying, your ex-wife is staring at me every time I walk into the kitchen, So it is very uncomfortable. And I think that you have to be patient with people. Um, and you have to be able to just have an understanding about that and talk about that. And always remember, no matter, you have a past. I've dated other people. I have a past. Like, you have to allow yourself to have a past, and you have to allow your mate has a past. So when you come together, you just have to just understand that a lot of that is just in the past and let that go. I see a question from Balin. Dr. Alicia, being with an entrepreneur, have you had to change your relationship dynamics? I picked that question because, yeah, so I had never dated an entrepreneur before, Boyce, and I will tell you, it is different. Okay, it's a different mentality. Plus, first of all, Dr. Boyce is just different in and of himself. Like, he's just a different kind of a person, and so that in itself is different. But yeah, an entrepreneur is kind of exciting. It's like, Dr. Boyce will come to me and he'll say, "Oh, I'm working on this class, and let's see how this class goes, and I'm going to do this launch." And Boyce works with his brother Lawrence, and they launch things. It is super exciting. So I think, like, the change in the relationship dynamics is just how, like, excited I am about all the successes that Boyce does, and like I am totally 100% encouraging to him, and I'm just like, yeah, do it, and this is like awesome. And Boyce, he's like the Tasmanian devil sometimes. Like, he works and works and works, and then he takes his naps, and then he gets up and he works again. And so it has been really exciting. I wasn't used to that level of excitement. I usually date a lot of corporate men who just like to keep they're kind of, I have a picture of a box because they're usually just kind of square. I like to date square men, and they're corporate and they work for a company. So this was my very first time, and it just really Oh my gosh, it is really interesting. Boyce is not square. No, he is not square at all, Janet. Thank you. Janet said Boyce is not square. That is so true. Okay, so I'm going to take one more question before we wrap up. Um, okay, so one question. How do you get over a man you once loved, especially when the chemistry was strong? Gigi, yeah, because you're still holding the flame. I think I know what that's like, to still hold the flame for somebody and it's over. And you don't really miss that man. You miss the chemistry that you and that man had. And I really think that, especially the first love, because I know my first love. Oh my goodness. So we have our first love, and that's always memorable to you. And I call the first love the gateway love. So I think what that man taught you is that it opened your heart up and it said, okay, you can have chemistry with another person. I don't think that man was right for you, probably, because Gigi, if he was right for you, you'd be together. So it wasn't meant to be. But he showed you what deep love is like, because when that chemistry is strong, it's powerful. And so you need to take that feeling with you as you go on and date other people. So don't get it confused in your head that chemistry is just tied to that one person. You're trying to replicate that chemistry probably in other relationships, and you're having a hard time doing it. You're like, oh, this wasn't his chemistry. But is his experience and what he taught you showed you what it feels like, because it feels so good to love and to be in love. So just tell yourself it wasn't this, and I think it's an interesting question, Gigi, because sometimes we get amnesia. I know it's happened to me. You're in a relationship with another person and the chemistry is really strong, and then you forget about all of the terrible things he did. You forget about it. So we have in relationships, we have this amnesia where we forget about all of the awful things, but what you remember is that you had this strong chemistry. So if you remind yourself, what was it about this man that bothered you? I'm sure you can give a big long list of, oh, I learned I didn't want this, I didn't want that, I didn't want this, but it was the chemistry that you miss. And so I think that is very important. That's my last question. And this was fun asking questions. I really wanted an opportunity to ask questions like this, to answer questions. And it's something that Dr. Boyce and I was talking that maybe we can in the future carve out time where any of you all have relationship questions. Maybe I can do a live, maybe I can do it by myself, like do a live, and maybe I'll invite another expert in, and maybe me and another expert, we can just go live one day and have all of you all in the Black Business School to just come in and come with questions, and then we'll be able to answer some of your questions. Like if this was something that you think is valuable, maybe that's something that we can do. I love taking questions, and I love having these conversations, and I think it's important to just like offer this to people in the Black Business School. So that's something that that's another thing I'll put on my list for things for Dr. Boyce and I to talk about doing, is to like take out time, unscheduled or maybe scheduled time, to like answer relationship questions that's burning. Sometimes you don't have time to go to make an appointment with a therapist and talk to a therapist and go through that whole thing. You have like instant questions that need to be answered, like Gigi's question. And so I think like that might be something I want to do. So
good idea.
Is it a good idea? I think, Carmelita, maybe it'd be something else for us to do.
Yes, I think it would be well received, Dr. Alicia. I want to just thank you as well. This is actually my first time that I have had the benefit of actually going through a keynote or a training with you, and it was phenomenal. So
thank you.
Thank you so much. I've learned so much today. I've taken so many notes, and I know that the chat has just been explosive all day. We're so grateful that everyone is here, because I know I know from the onset of this, both Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia knew the value of having a Black love conversation as it impacts our lives personally, business wise, our wealth building capacity, our longevity, and our strength as a community. So, Dr. Alicia, thank you from all of us, because we have so enjoyed this first day of the Black Love Weekend, and not the last day, because we will be back again tomorrow as well. And speak of a king, and he will pop up on the screen. I will yield the floor to you two.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I hope that I hope you gained a lot from today. This is I was listening, and you did a good job, babe. I should say that, you know, with everybody listening. Very proud of you, and also I'm proud of you that came to the event today, because you know, I just finished actually during the break. I took some time to go and just yell a little bit. You know, I don't know about y'all, but sometimes I get frustrated, you know, like with I don't know if y'all get this way, but, you know, sometimes, you know, you can just get frustrated with the things you see in your community, right? You see our families struggling, and you know, or you see us solving or struggling from problems that are easily solved, going through stuff that was easily preventable, making the same mistake over and over again, and somehow thinking that if we keep praying to Jesus, it's going to go away, or if we just, you know, or I don't know, if maybe the government will solve it, right? And it just doesn't work that way, right? We have to solve our own problems ourselves, starting with your own life, starting with your own family, starting with our community, because that's all the community is a collection of families. So if you want to understand the status of the Black community, all you got to do is look at the status of the Black family. Right. So, you know, think about this logically, right? Are our families collectively in good shape, or are they struggling? A lot of our families are struggling. We know this, right? So that translates to the community. I don't believe that you can have a weak community that has strong families. I just don't believe that. And so this is critical. This is important. This is building the future. This is us making sure that as we try to survive and do what we got to do in this burning house called America, because America's burning. America is it's gonna struggle over the next 100 years. I don't believe we're educating our children the way we should. I believe that we are confused. I believe that the politics has gotten a little bit crazy, but that don't mean we got to be crazy with it. So I think that we should build an incubator of Black intelligence, an incubator of Black love, an incubator of Black strength and Black power, and Black intelligence, Black love, Black power, Black wealth. They're all connected. They're all connected to each other. And that's what this is all about. This is, you know, we didn't ask for anybody's permission to hold this conference. We didn't have to get corporate sponsors. There ain't no corporation sponsoring this but ours. We didn't have to go and ask white-owned media to allow us to speak to you. We didn't have to go through an educational institution. We came straight to you. We came straight to the people, and that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. And I think that's really important because, you know, Alicia and I, our backgrounds, you know, we're both university professors, and we both taught classes, you know, to people that were mostly not Black, on behalf of another institution that was doing pretty much what we should be doing for our own people. They're taking care of their own, right? You know, like you go to your university. I was at Syracuse and whatnot. They take care of their own. They've got universities for their own. They've got classes for their own. They've got spaces for their own to learn what they need to learn. And I don't knock them for that. I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it at all. I really look at us and say, okay, where's our space? Where are our universities? Where are our institutions? And I believe they're going to be built, but it starts with mindset. Your family is the first institution. Now, babe, I know you've done a lot of talking. Did you? I did a lot of talking in the last 2 or 3 minutes. But did you have something you want to add to that?
No, I mean, what I wanted to add was I want to thank our panelists today.
Yes,
they did a great job.
Please,
and
absolutely.
I couldn't believe, okay, the moderators, the Pettiford couple, they did a great job moderating. I thought they were at it for a long time. Moderated two of the panels. I thought it was great. So I think today was like a really good first day. And I know someone mentioned, oh, this is the first year. Maybe we'll do it again next year. And I was like, okay, we haven't made it through.
Yeah, we're gonna do it again next year. We're gonna do it in real life. I want to have this as a
in person. That'd be
yeah.
great.
I want to do it in person. I mean, we could keep the digital aspect for those who can't make the trip, but I think that there's something powerful about being able to be around other people, to hug other people. You know, I'll tell you a secret. When I would go on tour and stuff like that, you know, it wasn't really like a money thing because it's very expensive, time consuming, and difficult. And after you pay all the expenses, you got like 10 nickels left to rub together. The reason I wanted to go on tour, and I love it, I still do, is because I like actually seeing people and being around my people and being in a space with everybody else. And in fact, everybody, if you don't know, I assume you know, but I want to make sure if you don't know now, you know, we do have blagenough.com. We built a social media platform where there are thousands and thousands and thousands of Black people there already. They're B1. You can actually hit a button and you can find people that live in your same area. So I tried it out and I found a bunch of folks that live just, you know, a few miles from our house. And I think that's really important, especially now that the last year we've had a lot of folks dealing with a lot of social isolation. That's not natural. You know, like the kids just got to see their grandma this weekend. And that was a big deal, you know, and we were like, okay, we're going to kidnap you, lady. We're going to keep you in this house for a year because we need to get that year back. So, you know, I personally think that this is not just educational, but it's also spiritual. It's spiritually refreshing, fulfilling. You know, it's maybe the same feeling that you get when you when people go to church every Sunday, right? You go not just for to get the Holy Spirit and hear from the pastor, but you're going for the fellowship. You're going to connect with other people. That is important. And what I learned a lot from listening to you, babe, is when you talked about that part about the need for love being greater than the need for food. And I'd heard you say that before, and I thought about that, and I think that that's 100% fundamentally true. I was just while you were talking, I was watching. This has broke my heart, made me so sad. I was hearing. I don't know if any of y'all knew this in hip hop, but did y'all know that DMX's sister is Roxanne Shante? Y'all remember Roxanne?
What? Wait, the real Roxanne or the other one?
Real Roxanne is
the real
DMX's
Roxanne.
sister.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I did not know that. So, she did a video and she was talking about how they had been estranged as children. They got back together and both of them had gone through a lot of the trauma that you can only imagine, right? You know what our kids go through. And she talked about a time where DMX's mother, when he was very little, told him that they were going to go visit a boys' home. And she took him to the boys' home and she left him there and didn't come back. And I just heard that story and I said, my God, I cannot imagine as a child having that kind of hole put in your heart. You can't. I don't know how you come back from that. You know, and she's bawling, she's crying. I'm almost ready to cry too because I'm just imagining that feeling as a child going through something like that. And it made me think about what you were saying about that need for love and what happens when that need isn't fulfilled and what we carry with us through life. And I don't want to see our people suffer like that. You know, I think that addressing that trauma, working through it is a very important first step for everybody here. So you can heal, so you can help other people get better. And then also identifying it and protecting our children from that trauma. Because I believe when kids see their parents going at it and all this chaos around them, that is so painful for them. And I think it's a matter of saying, how do we do better? How do we protect ourselves? How do we protect our families and our children from that kind of thing? What do you think?
I think that first of all, I'm just sitting here thinking about the story of Roxanne Shante and how come they did a special on Roxanne and they never even talked about the fact that DMX and they didn't know each other when they were growing up. They were just apart and they both became rappers.
You know what? You're right. It's kind of weird, right? Like what?
Not even like.
Yeah,
I feel about DMX. I think he's one of the good ones. I love DMX.
Yeah, and I love him too. And I think that that's an appropriate example in terms of talking about when you talk about Black love, you're talking about in all its manifestations. You know, because because the relationship between the man and the woman is rooted in the relationship that you have with your parents. You know, like my mother was my first girlfriend. You know, your daddy was your first boyfriend, and that shapes everything. For example, y'all may not know this. Let me give y'all a little Dr. Boyce and Alicia trivia. Her dad and my mother. Wait, how do I say it? She has the same profession as my mother. She's in social work. My mother's a social worker. Her dad was a college professor. I'm a college professor. So you want to talk about some Freudian stuff going on here? There you go. And also you took a picture with my mama. I got to find that picture. And your mother said that you look more like her than you look like your own mother. And when they talk about, they say that people date people that remind them of their parent. It's fascinating. Like, I think you can learn a lot about yourself by how you choose your relationships. You know, I don't know. It's kind of amazing. I didn't plan it that way. It just happened. And I really think it's almost like looking in the mirror, you know?
Yeah, it's something growing up where people are like, Dr. Francis, and they're talking about my dad. And then now I'm dating you and everyone's like, Dr. Boyce, and they're talking about you. You know, I mean, there must be some sort of ring to, okay, if we don't work out, I got to marry another man with a PhD.
Yeah, hey, we working out. If you ever try to leave me, I'm going with you. Just know.
Okay.
Where are we going? We leaving now? Where are we going? But you know, I think overall, let me just say this. First of all, let me just make sure I'm appropriate, and I say thank you to the people that are doing this behind the scenes. Well, I know we're halfway through, but I'm going to thank them multiple times because they're that important. There's Taryn Donatian, Carmelita Turner. My daughter Carmen is helping out as well. Who else? I hope I'm not missing. I know Jonathan.
Lawrence. We got to thank Lawrence.
Oh, Lawrence, of course. Let me go. I'm literally looking down here on the list.
What's the guy, Jonathan? I keep seeing a lot of messages.
Jonathan actually designed a lot of the technology. So in fact, actually, everybody who wants to participate, we actually have something going on, the Black Love Challenge. And maybe Taryn, you guys can let us know if the Black Love Challenge is ready. But Alicia and I put together a Black Love Challenge that you can do totally free that will allow you to take those steps to improve your relationships and understand relationships better. And I believe the URL is theblacklove.challenge.com. And I'll double check with the team to make sure that's ready. But you can check it out and try to see if it's ready. If it's up there, then it's ready. But the blacklovechallenge.com is there. Also, don't forget, if you want to get recordings of the whole weekend and all that stuff, you can still go to theblackloveweekend.com. For this weekend, it's cut off. I think the price is dropped by 48-50%, something like that. And there's a fee because, you know, we have bills to pay. We have people we have to pay. A whole Black business we're running. We're building a university. That's why everything can't be free. But believe me, we do everything we can to make everything affordable. And so also the other point I want you all to know is that tomorrow we're going to do it again. Tomorrow we're going to have a whole nother day of Black Love. Y'all saw how great the experts were today. Give me a yes in the chat to confirm that the experts were impactful. I don't know about y'all, but I was super impressed. I was so excited because it's like, yes, you know, like, look at this. I mean, you bring together smart Black people. You got something better than any university in this country. Harvard University can't do what we're doing right now. You know, Yale can't do what we're doing right now, right? They just, I'm talking about deeply rooted in the essence of a Black nationalist philosophy that involves building our own businesses, raising our children right, developing our families, Black men loving Black women, building institutions, educating each other. They don't do that. They can't do that, right? And so what I will say is that I was listening to Dr. Adrian Carter. I was just, I mean, that's such a sharp brother, you know, and I was listening to the Pettifords. You can't replicate their 19 years of marriage and their commitment to the community. And double thanks to them, because I didn't know that they were going to be on for that long, but I'm glad. I mean, they were so good, so good. Also, Dr. Carolyn West. Dr. Carolyn West, she was brilliant. I love listening to her. Dr. Brittany. Dr. George James. Yes, Dr. George James. And I like George because George, well, first of all, George has been a friend of ours for a long time. He introduced me to Julian Gordon, and a lot of y'all know Julian. Julian, you know, I mean, since that time, Julian has emerged as one of the leading Black real estate experts in the country. Right now, he's our dean of real estate in the Black Business School. He's down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana right now with a group of Black people that are buying up gigantic chunks of Baton Rouge. He's doing it quietly, but they've raised millions of dollars and they're getting it done. So what you're seeing, and then also, of course, Dr. Brittany, was it Brittany Hartford? Is that her last name? If somebody,
Brittany Henry.
Brittany Henry. I'm so sorry, Brittany Henry. We're gonna give a whole list of everybody's names, and I'm gonna follow up and make sure you get all their information. But
I started following Dr. Brittany on Instagram, by the way.
Wait, what'd you say?
Dr. Brittany Henry, like, she took everything in my mind and she said it. So I'm like, I'm following her on Instagram. So
yeah, I have to tell people the truth. I did not know some of the folks that came in. I didn't know Dr. Brittany Henry. I'd never heard her before, but I'm like, okay, wow, this is, I can't even take credit because it was Taryn and Carmelita and the team that selected these. They
found her. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I got to go find out, but it's really interesting because, I'm engaging with our folks every day and stuff like that. You guys know that. And I am convinced that there is over $1 trillion in intellectual power right there in our audience. We have about 1 million subscribers on our different YouTube channels. We have a few, almost 1 million on email and all that. And you can't tell me that you can't find some of the most brilliant people on the planet that can do almost any, that can fulfill any role that you want in that group, right? And that's important. That's an important economic principle because what most communities understand, and we're learning this, we get this, and I think we're learning it even more. We got to practice it, is that when you need something, you got everything you need. You are what you need. So, if you go to an Asian community that's on code, when they want to buy a product, they go right to their people. When they're looking to hire, they go right to their people. When they're looking to make an investment, they go right to their people. They only go to you or go to other people as the last default option after everything else hasn't worked. And so the same thing is true in our space. When we're trying to do something big or make a movie or, do a new program or whatever the case may be, have some special event, we go right to our people first. And what happens is people will email me in and I'll say, whoa, I didn't even know you're like literally Mark Harris, who made he's made a lot of great movies in Hollywood. He's got a new movie out called White People Money. And Mark is a respected one of the most respected Black filmmakers in the country. He's made several movies for every network across the board, from BET to VH1. His new movie, I think, is on Amazon, which everybody should see. It's called White People Money. And so Mark, I watched his movie called Black Coffee. And because somebody had recommended me, everybody was saying, oh, this movie's great. It's so great. It's so great. So I sat down and watched the movie. And I was sitting there watching this movie. And they were saying stuff in the script where I said, okay, this guy, I don't know who the director is, but this director has been learning from us because we're the only ones who got, in the beginning, at least at that time, we were the only ones really talking in this particular way. I said, I bet every nickel in my bank account that whoever made this movie is connected to us on some level because they're literally reciting things that we've talked about on the platform, which made me ecstatic. So I mentioned the movie on Facebook, and the true story, and I said something like, yeah, I saw this movie and I think the director probably is LinkedIn and blah, blah, blah. And then I get a message from Mark, who made the movie. He said, Dr. Boyce, I've been following you for years. He said, I messaged you, but you didn't hit me back. And I said, oh man, I'm really sorry. And then he lived like 2 blocks away from my house in Chicago. And so what I'm saying to you is that Black Coffee is probably on Amazon. If you just look it up, it's a really good movie, because what's fascinating, and I want to get your take on this, babe, is like, when I watch Black Coffee, which everybody should watch, you're watching this movie and it made me aware of how the trauma of some of the negativity in our community is so deeply embedded that I come to expect it. So I'm watching the movie and I'm seeing, the buildup. I'm seeing 2 guys that look like they're just headed on a crash course. I'm like, oh shoot, it's about to blow up. Oh, as soon as he finds out about the girl, then blah, blah, blah. And you know what happened? They actually resolved their differences. They resolved the conflict.
They resolved it peacefully.
Yeah. Or you're like, oh shoot, she's gonna get him. Oh, I wonder if she's gonna kill him by the end of the movie. And then next thing you know, everybody's working together, everybody's friends. I'm like, what is this? Like, this is, and that reminded me of just how we're so used to us doing the opposite of loving each other. Like we've been trained to do that, and it's kind of crazy. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and this is it's a great example of what happens when we're in control of our own media. You know, we're so used to seeing all these stereotypes that, you know, it's nice to see, because that tells you your conditioning. You're so used to seeing all this ratchetness getting attributed to us, like we're the only people ratchet. Trust me, there's enough ratchetness to go around, and it has nothing to do with race.
So says the therapist who sees couples of all ethnic backgrounds.
It's some stuff that I've seen other groups do that would just make your skin crawl. But yeah, I mean, that's a great example of that. But I do want to say that, like, Dr. George James, what you were talking about, and Adrian Carter, like, clap it up for them, because we don't see too many Black males being therapists. Like, I think we're at a crisis level. I think we need more Black men getting into becoming experts in relationships and therapy. I really think that it is just very, very difficult. I mean, it's hard enough for Black people just to become experts in relationships, but it's even more difficult to find. We need really good Black men to get that training and bring themselves to that, you know, type of service that they offer. So I'm like super happy to see two Black men who are speaking the truth and saying things. Sometimes it needs to come from a man. I think it makes a bigger difference than if it came from someone like me, you know, and my own personal biases, which, you know, all of us have them. But I think it's great that we found two Black men who are therapists who are willing to come on. Like, that's a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, that's a good point, because well, two things I'll say to that is, one, I do think that as challenging as it is for a man, you know, or any of us guys to hear from a woman like you. I think that we have to do that, right? We got to listen to Black women, extremely important. And then also, to your point with Dr. George James and Dr. Adrian Carter, what I like about those two brothers is that, you know, I mean, these are the types of guys that are not out here trying to be flashy. They're not trying to, you know, get 1 million followers on YouTube by.
They're not trying to patronize us.
Right. They're not trying to patronize. I mean, you heard. Well, I like listening to those guys. And I've known George for a while. I just met Adrian this year. He was recommended by Nicole Compton. And Nicole was right on the mark in terms of telling me how great he was going to be. You kind of need people that are just going to give you balance. You know, because that's what I mean. Balance is a great word to describe one of the most fundamental components in a relationship. My God, like, you know, men dealing with women, sometimes you feel like you're from different planets. And if you don't learn that balance, it ain't gonna work. You know, and I think that sometimes what people have to understand about YouTube and everything else is that drama sells. You know, the chaos sells. You know, you have some people on YouTube, and who knows, I could be one of them. I hope I'm not. But who are bona fide crazy, and they get more followers because people like to see a crazy person triggered and acting a damn fool, and they love that. And I try my best.
Some people love it. Like, you know, right. I can't stand it for 2 minutes. Like, as soon as I hear it, I'm like, turn it off. I can't listen to all that noise. It just sounds noisy to me. But certain people love it. But I think the people who follow you, you don't do that.
I try not to, but some people see me yell. You know, I'm gonna tell you, coonery triggers me. Like, ignorance and backward behavior triggers me. It makes me mad. I start becoming the crazy guy when I start seeing some stuff where I'm like, come on now, what's going on here? You know, but I do think at the end of the day, it's time to make sure that we have that balanced conversation. And so I'm very happy. Like, you know, I told Adrian, I said, man, whenever you want to come back, you just let me know. Because anybody that listens to that guy for more than 5 minutes knows that he is that he's trained in what he's talking about, and the information that he shares with you is going to actually help you achieve your goal. It's not going to make you into another crazy person. So before
Trey Kearney, that's our last one. You didn't mention her.
Oh, Trey. You know what? I did an interview with Trey the other day, and I'm so sorry for not mentioning Trey. My God, how could I forget Trey Kearney? Trey. I had a good conversation, and it's on my channel actually, and we really got a chance to explore a lot of stuff. And what I like about Trey's platform is, I think her show's called Men Hurt Too or something like that, and I was like, yeah, we hurt too, you know, and it was nice. It was refreshing to me as a man just to be heard. You know, I don't know if everybody listens to men. I feel like it's like you're doing this wrong and you're doing that wrong, and then you'll see, you'll see what, like I'm not trying to point out Derek Jackson and nothing. He's got enough issues, but sometimes I would get a little itchy when he would just be saying, well, the reason that he didn't do this right was because these men are this and these men are that and these men are weak, and it's like, no, like maybe you should go talk to the men to find out why they're doing some of the things that they do, as opposed to just assuming that we're just fundamentally flawed. So I like the fact that Trey allowed me to express. I enjoyed that, and I think that as men, we definitely owe women that same respect. So, you know what, Alicia, I'm going to give you the last word before we bounce out. Just so y'all know, we're going to start tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. So, we hope you'll come back to class. We're going to break it down. We got a whole bunch of other experts rolling through, Tia Brown and some other really good people. And when you get done, you will be a better person as a result of this. You will have a better ability to relate to other people, which is the key to your success. Health, wealth, and relationships. It's the holy trinity of a quality life, of a wealthy life. You cannot have wealth without having health and good relationships. You cannot have good health without good relationships. Like Alicia said, you need love more than you need food. So all these things are connected. You have to think about them all. Dr. Alicia, ma'am, what are your final thoughts before we bounce about here, girl?
I just wanted to say I have thoroughly enjoyed myself today. I actually took notes and was writing things down, and I so look forward to tomorrow. I think this is our first time doing this, and that we should continue to think about creative ways to do this again next year in person. Everybody got to be safe. We're going to be safe, but we're going to do it in person. I think there's so much more to that personal interaction that you don't get digitally, but we're doing what we can this time. And I think that I just had fun. I enjoyed myself. I enjoyed conveying my thoughts about what I think people need in order to have a really successful relationship. And it really is fear. That really is the theme when I sit down and talk with couples. Underneath all of that, when I go, how does that make you feel? How does that make you feel? How does that make you feel? And if I go further and further, a lot of it has to do, okay, is this person really going to be there for me when I need them? Can I trust this person? What's going on? And so hopefully today I did the best I could to really convey how to break down all those fears that's stopping you. It's in your head. It's something that you made up. It's a lot of times the fear is not even real. And I think that we need to get out there, put yourself out there, expose yourself, and allow yourself to make a mistake. Allow yourself, because some people get caught into, if I do this, what'll happen? If I do this, I'm going to be a failure. Well, no, it's not a failure. You just made a mistake, and that person wasn't right for you, and you live and you learn. So I think some people catastrophize a failed relationship, or they catastrophize, oh, I'm flawed because I wasn't able to do some of the things that I haven't been able to do. And I think that you need to start instead focusing on all of the accomplishments that you do have in relationships and focus on that. And that'll make you feel better. So I think that hopefully this will be food for thought for everybody. And hopefully people will come tomorrow with, hopefully we'll have a chance to answer some people's questions tomorrow. We got a good lineup. I'm all excited. We're going to talk about bringing back the passion into your love life. I'm excited about that. I want to know how to do that. And then another one is relationship gurus. So I'm glad that I'm moderating. I'm going to moderate that one about, I feel really strongly.
Relationship gurus who will die alone.
They will die alone. But yeah, so I'm excited about that. And I'm excited about just doing what I can, because I've been a licensed therapist for 18 years, boys. It's like my license is now an adult. It used to be a child. Now it's grown up, and so
the license can go to the bar and get a drink.
Well, I don't know about
that's
that.
21. That'd be 21. Okay.
My license can vote. It can vote now.
There we go. Go to war.
It can go to war and it can vote. So, how timely, how timely is that? So, to celebrate my 18th year of all of my practice experience. And then not to mention, my full-time job is at a university. So I'm teaching people how to become therapists and how to critically look at information that's given to them. So, I mean, that's my full-time job does that. And it takes full time to help and train students to do some of the work that I'm doing. And I just feel privileged. Like every day when I get up and go to work, I feel privileged,
Well,
to
I
be in
love
that
it.
position.
Well, I'll tell you, we're privileged to have you today, of course, and I'll just kind of end with just kind of going back to something I brought up earlier. I was talking about Roxanne Shante, the sister of DMX, or at least they presented her as his sister. I got to double check that, but she was given a really heartfelt uh, uh, discussion about her last moments with him before he died, and they're both of their experiences had trauma all over it. They both went through the system. Drugs is kind of an intergenerational curse, it seems. And one of the things that she did, I mean, she was bawling when she explained all this, is she talked about that thing you all were discussing earlier, which was trauma, and how trauma can affect so many choices we make. So how we deal with relationships. And one thing she said that really stood out to me was, she said, a lot of times you all will see me texting at 3 o'clock in the morning because I can't sleep. And she said, I don't want to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning. She said, but growing up in that system where anything can happen to you, you learn not to sleep. And she said, and you also become very triggered. You become very overly aggressive. The minute you see one little thing that goes wrong, you jump out of the situation or you fight back. And that trauma, that triggered behavior that you constantly see in relationships, and you see all throughout our community everywhere, we know where a lot of that comes from. And then also we know that there is help for that. There's help for that. And if you don't get the help, then your life becomes just almost like a string of dead bodies, just these dead relationships laid out one after the other, where you're constantly looking for a type of peace that may be difficult for you to obtain on your own. So what I'm here to tell you is that I celebrate and I honor these Black professionals that were gracious enough to give us their time today. I think that these are the people we need to listen to. I think that we have to understand that most of the work, most of the dirt, most of the terrible things that affect your life are the things that are beneath the surface. Alicia, I'm sure, would agree with me because she's an expert in the subconscious mind. Most of the stuff that drives a big chunk of your behavior is so deeply embedded in your processing that you don't even know is there. So therapists can help you work through that. Self-help helps you work through that. Community helps you work through that. And our goal in this space is to create a healthy, intelligent community that will make you into better people when you're done. That's what we do. That's why we're here. So God bless everybody. I look forward to seeing you in the morning. If you haven't registered or anything like you're watching online, because we are streaming to one of the channels right now. We won't be streaming the whole conference anywhere. So you can go to theblackloveweekend.com, register for free. That's theblackloveweekend.com. Thank you again to everybody in the background who made this possible. Thank you to all the experts and specialists we've had today. And we look forward to seeing you all in the morning. So God bless you. See you soon. Bye-bye.